Okay, let me get a little closer. At this point, I have, as you can see, I've removed the board from the building table. In the beginning, I never did glue the tucker tabs to the frame. So when you saw that last little clip, you can see it popped off fairly easily. Inevitably, there's a couple of little tucker tabs that do get a little glue on it. I had one right here. And at this point, what I want to do is clean up the inside, get rid of any little glue blobs, clean up all the little spots where the tucker tabs were sticking. And then the next step is really the most important part to keep your board lasting long, and it's to seal the inside of the board. Know that the surfboards are going to be completely glassed, and in theory they really shouldn't ever get any water inside, but I've learned that it does. If you're gonna be surfing it, inevitably you're going to accidentally leave the vent open, or maybe your fin box is going to leak. So we really need to protect the inside. In the event that it does get wet, it will survive. So I'm going to move the camera a little closer, and we'll get started. Okay, so I've got the camera zoomed in close here, and if you look, I did pretty good. Most of my joints don't have a lot of squeeze out, but there is squeeze out. So for this joint, I'm confident that's a good one, and I don't need to touch it. It's good. This one has a couple of little bumps and bubbles. If I wasn't making a video, these are so small, I'd probably just leave these. It's not worth trying to get those out and maybe punch a rib out or something like that. So this little section's looking really good. I'm done there. I can see that probably the camera can't pick it up, but right underneath here, there's a little void between this piece and this piece. So when I'm sealing the board, I'm gonna let a little sealer get underneath that to make sure that this is adhered well. On that subject, the sealer you use must not be oil-based. It must be an adhesive-based sealer, preferably the same glue you used to glue the frame to the top. A two-part epoxy is really the best. I'm not going to go into exactly what brands of glue would be best, because this video might get old at a point and glues improve. So the best thing to do, again, as I think I've mentioned before, is use the strongest waterproof glue that you have available. So I'm using a Titebond 3 on this build. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and seal this with Titebond 3, but right out of the bottle it's going to be way too heavy. So I'm going to thin it. But stepping back just a little bit, is the reason why you really have to make sure it's an adhesive-based sealer, not something like a Thompson's water sealer used to seal the deck on a house. Those are oil-based, and they'll actually break down the glue in your board, and also could seep through to the other side. That's going to get fiberglass and present all sorts of problems fiberglassing. So at this point in time, I like Titebond 3 or epoxy, the same epoxy resin that you'd use to fiberglass your board, and get the lowest viscosity you can find. There's some canoe and kayak products that are very good. If you're going to use the same resin that you're going to use to glass the board, you can thin it down with denatured alcohol, but you want to keep it thin. It wants to be a good product that's thin to keep it light, and it needs to thoroughly coat, inside all these rings all around. And if you do have a little void like I have right here, I'm going to let that glue-based sealer seep into there. Okay, so I do see a little kind of a large blob right here that I might as well get rid of that. You can see this Titebond 3, it is strong. So you have to exert some pressure to get these things out. So I'm not going to risk getting these other ones out. I'm too afraid I'm going to damage some other things. So that's what we'll do. Let's go ahead now. One more thing. If you're going to use a two-part sealer like an epoxy, you don't have it goes off, unlike glue, that the Titebond 3 that dries, and it's a water-based product. So since I'm going to use the water-based product, if I were to mix it super thin and just flood this whole thing sloppy with a brush, that moisture could buckle these boards and cause the same problems that you're trying to prevent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take it easy, go slow. I'm not going to do the whole board at once. I'll probably just do this little section, nice and thin, make sure it's real perfect. Skip over, do this section, take my time. Maybe I'll only do those sections, let that dry, come back, do these sections. You want to let it continue to dry, and having these alternate spaces dry and open is going to keep this section, allow this section to dry out and these planks to dry without buckling. So just take it real slow if you're going to use a water-based sealer like I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to mix some up and we'll get that started. Okay, so I have mixed up some Titebond 3 and thinned it down with water. I've done it about 1:1, which gives it about the consistency of milk. So it's pretty thin. There's a lot of water in there. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure and not just flood this thing. All right, so I'm going to start with this section, work it into all the cracks. This is going to be a little bit of a boring video, so I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do all of this, but so what I'm doing is making sure that it's really getting wicked into all the little holes inside all the surfaces. I'm not going to hit this top edge. I'm going to go right up to the edge. If a little goes on top, that's fine. I'll run some sanding block over the whole thing to make sure everything's even later, and that will take it off. But I really want this to be raw wood, because the next step is going to be, just like planking the top, we're going to put a centerpiece on here and work our way out. And the glue will adhere better to raw wood than wood that has a little bit of glue already on it. So that's it. I'm just going to do this section right here, skip over so that this one can dry alone with 2 dry sections next to it. Just do every other section, nice and easy, take it slow. By the time I get to the other end of the board, maybe I'll take a break, do something else a little bit, and or even if I'm working, you know, go the next day and come back and do that. So that's it. The next step, we're going to go ahead and apply these pieces, and since we won't have the opportunity to come back and seal again in the same way while it's wide open like this, these planks will be sealed on the inside and glued, and because I'm using the same glue for the sealer and my adhesion here, it's the whole inside of the board is just going to be coated with this adhesive sealer and glue. So that's it. I'll keep going, and in the next video we'll get started planking the top, which is going to be a pretty short video because planking the bottom. And again, that's going to be a short video because it's really just the same as planking the top. So we'll get started on that next. Okay, not so fast. I'm back again after I shut down that last little clip. I was going to continue off camera to just go ahead and seal this, and I realized I can't get underneath this little section here with the little disposable brush that I have. So I just went ahead and clipped the end of my brush off so that I can get up underneath here. It really is important that you get every single little surface. Don't leave anything behind, because this little section is actually the bottom of the board, where if it's leaking, that's where the water is going to be. And if this little section right here is raw wood, it's just going to wick in to the surface. So you really do want to make sure that every single little crack and crevice is sealed. Take your time, and if it means having to get creative and cutting a brush or whatever you need to do, go ahead and coat everything. Okay, and I think that was such a short video. We're going to include putting the first strip on in this video, so we'll do that next, just to condense everything. Okay, the next step is to add the first center strip, and I'm not going to bore you with starting all over. This is really just like a previous video, video number 8, where we put the first strip on the top of the deck. I pre-bend a piece of wood. I believe that's video 8, and then in video 9 we're attaching it. There's no difference. We've already been here before. The only difference attaching the first plank on the bottom and the consecutive strips is we want to pre-seal the inside as we go so that the entire inside of the board becomes sealed. So I'm starting to shrink wrap this piece in place just like I did before. I'm going to use the shrink wrap to clamp everything in place because it's very lightweight. It's just like rubber banding the material on. Again, the shrink wrap allows you to sort of straighten things out before the glue sets up. If you do have some problem spots and you do need to use a clamp, just like before, use very small, lightweight clamps so that you don't build in a twist to the board. So that's it. I will continue. Again, I'm not going to bore you and go through the whole bottom because it's just like video 8 and 9. No difference other than sealing the inside. Once the bottom is covered, we'll go to the next video and we're going to start final shaping the outer rails and applying the rail strips. At that point, this board is getting very close to done. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.